This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this Friday. Well, with a warm weekend ahead, most beach communities on Manitoba's lakes are counting the days until the ice melts. But some people in a Lake Manitoba community are dealing with a bit of an unexpected problem. And as the CBC's Mike Arsenault reports, it is creating some costly damage.
Some people living on the southern point of Lake Manitoba are in a situation they say they've never seen before. A large buildup of lake ice has washed up along the shore of Delta Beach, causing property damage to houses and cottages. Jeanette Kitson has lived in her Delta Beach home for almost 20 years. Early Monday morning, she heard an unfamiliar sound. It was ice from the lake crashing into her property.
I didn't see it come up because it was in the night, but the walkway here, you can see the railings down, and the walkway and the stairs are probably not very good underneath.
Kitson says the damage to her house was mild compared to some of the other cottages nearby.
It seems like there's just an area of maybe about 15 or 20 cottages that got hit hard. The rest of the beach has the ice piles, but it's out on the shore.
Delta Beach is in the rural municipality of Portage la Prairie. Roy Tufford, says ice usually collects further out on the lake, and he was surprised to see it washed up on the shore.
I know it's happened along other stretches of the Lake Manitoba, but not generally at this end because this is really, really shallow here for the most part.
Tufford says he's been talking with the province to see what can be done to help property owners with the repairs.
We'll be doing a community impact assessment to find out whether people here are eligible for DFA. But if it's a pretty small event, it's probably not going to be the case, but hopefully we can get some help for these people.
Tufford says the Disaster Financial Assistance Program was used in the past when the community was hit with flooding. Kitson has been in contact with her insurance company.
Hopefully for me it's just my railings and stairs, but part of the deck could be gone too.
Until the ice melts away to reveal the full impact of the damage, all Kitson and her neighbors can do is wait. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Delta Beach.
Well, to northern Manitoba now, where businesses are trying a new way they hope deters crime. The city centre mall in Thompson has turned to classical music. The goal, they say, to stop people from loitering and to reduce crime. The CBC's Sanuda Ranawake has more.
You can hear it from anywhere around the mall, and even across the street. Classical music has been playing on speakers outside the Thompson Mall during shopping hours since November. The goal? Discourage loitering and crime.
They should give up the music because it's really loud.
Some shoppers would like to see a different, more traditional approach to fight crime.
If you're really worried about it, have security, I guess, which I haven't seen as many security people as I have before.
Bradley Wickert visits Thompson to shop and says the music is keeping him away from the mall.
It's rather off-putting. Like, I'm here to do business, I'm here to shop, and I really don't need to hear that blasting.
The city says it's gotten complaints about the music. Director Brock Rogerson says they received a citation for violating the noise bylaw, but says they have since turned the music down. He says the music started because of violent crime at the mall.
We have unfortunately had a murder on the parking lot last year. We had security guard who was hospitalized after being hit on the head with a shopping cart before we had purchased the property. And numerous, other illegal activity.
Rogerson says his top priority is safety and is willing to make sacrifices for it. Since the mall took this approach, he says crime is down.
We have had 24% fewer incidents and write-ups since the implementation of the music.
Milt Goebel questions the effectiveness of the music. He says people are still loitering around mall entrances.
It's an interesting experiment. I'm not sure it's very successful. It's really not a solution to a problem.
Goebel says providing people with housing and a safe, warm place to go is what's needed to address the bigger issue and reduce crime. Sanuda Ranawake, CBC News, Thompson.
Meantime, in Winnipeg, a group of local business entrepreneurs are also fed up with crime happening in and around their businesses. They say theft, vandalism, and break-ins are becoming commonplace. Well, now a group of small business owners are taking matters into their own hands. They have planned a crime prevention conference aimed at reducing crime in the area. The CBC's Mike Arsenault has the story.
It's just keeping as much as you can sealed up behind glass.
Michael Paye has no choice but to keep his inventory behind lock and key. His store, Cobra Collectibles, is filled with comics, retro games, and toys. He says theft has doubled in the last 5 years.
They literally will look at you and try to grab as much as they can and walk out the door.
Paye decided to organize the Small Business and Retail Crime Prevention Conference in an effort to reduce crime.
We'll be talking about crime prevention to companies talking about security guards, companies talking about alarm systems.
This has been a couple of years now. They've been attacking our windows.
Next door to Cobra Collectibles is XQ's, a cafe and lounge that's been in the neighborhood for almost 60 years. Owner Sal Infantino says he'll be attending the conference after being broken into multiple times in the past year.
They break in, they come through the window, and they walk around the place. They go to the bar, they grab a couple bottles.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business is one of the speakers at the conference. Senior policy analyst Tyler Slobodjan says 52% of their nearly 4,500 members have had issues with crime and safety in the past year.
The average business has spent about $5,000 over the last 3 years on different security measures, mostly preventative, but also, that could be, fixing a broken window or reparative measures as well.
In an email to CBC, Constable Danny McKinnon from the Winnipeg Police Service spoke about the importance of reporting crime and says in part, police rely on this crime data to determine action plans and the appropriate and effective deployment of resources. This not only includes the general deployment of daily resources, but also special attention projects incorporating a collaboration of police resources. Infantino would like to see more police patrolling the community.
I want to save this community because it's a great community. I've been here my whole life and I have no plans to go anywhere else.
Other guests scheduled to speak at this conference include Crime Stoppers, the Bear Clan, and the province's Minister of Justice. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg police are warning you to check your wallet or purse for counterfeit cash. Police say they've been investigating fake bills that have been circulating in the city since the beginning of the year. So far, they have seized $12,000 worth, which is double the amount for all of last year. Police say the bills look and feel very similar to real Canadian banknotes, but have prop money printed backwards on them.
These specific notes, there are various different accounts on different social media platforms that advertise this prop money for sale under the guise that it's for movie making and film production.
Thompson says fake $20, $50, and $100 bills are being shipped into Canada from other countries. Well, it is a big night for the Winnipeg Jets, who look to move on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The CBC's Gavin Axelrod joins us live now from a watch party that is getting underway later this evening at Canada Life Centre. So, Gavin, what is the mood like there? I know doors have just opened up.
Yeah, Riley, I would say the mood right here, it's a little bit quieter than you might be expecting, but that's because the puck drop is still a while away. The doors just open behind us. People are coming in, grabbing their white towels. And like you said, it's a big night for the Winnipeg Jets here. They're looking to punch their ticket to the second round, and fans here are going to be full of excitement, but also probably a little bit of nerves because you just never know what will happen. And so, yeah, we're just waiting for all the people to fill in here at the arena.
All right, and we are expecting that puck drop happening, of course, at 7 o'clock tonight, right here on CBC television as we watch those fans start to filter in. Thank you, Gavin. CBC's Gavin Axelrod live at Canada Life Centre tonight. Beautiful day to spend some time outside this afternoon, a mix of sun and clouds really across southern Manitoba. Let's get a first check on our weather now with weather specialist Ethan Williams.
Well, Riley, some cloud cover moving through Manitoba through the day here on this Friday, but especially through southern sections, we've seen some clearing, especially a little bit further out west, and that has led to a pretty nice day temperature-wise as well through much of Manitoba. Mid-teens is what a lot of us have managed, either kind of at or just slightly below the seasonal high for this time of year. But I want to draw your attention to this kind of area of yellow and orange that we're seeing back out to the west through through Saskatchewan, because that is very quickly moving our way. And already by Saturday, things are going to get pretty warm in Winnipeg and southern Manitoba, already over 10 degrees by 8 a.m. Bit of a breeze to start off the day, but that's going to diminish as we head through the afternoon. And what's also going to diminish is that cloud cover as well. Nice sunny day by the time we hit 4 o'clock, and a high of around 23 degrees above seasonal for this time of year. But of course, the question is, how long is this going to last, Riley? I'll have the details in your full forecast coming up.
I feel like there's going to be some busy patios. Thank you so much, Ethan. Sign summer is almost here as well. The city's seasonal bike route program is now in effect. It limits speeds on some city streets, including Lyndale Drive, Wellington Crescent, and Churchill. It'll be in place 24/7 until late October. There will also be turn requirements in place at some intersections on these routes. Devoted father, an avid motorcyclist, died in a collision last weekend. How the family is remembering him when we come back. A North Kildonan family has been shattered. A husband, a father of two, and an avid motorcyclist was killed in a collision last weekend. Police say the other driver had been drinking. CBC's Felicia Adam has more.
For the next few days, these candles will remain lit in the Cepena home. Between them are photos of Winston Cepena. In the back is a hand-drawn photo by his 6-year-old son that reads, "I love my dad."
We lost a part of ourselves. My kids lost the person they look up to, the person who's supposed to protect them, the person who provides for them.
Last Saturday, on his way home from meeting his motorcycle riding group, a truck making a left turn collided with Cepena on Highway 9 in the RM of St. Andrews. Charges have not been laid, but police have suspended the license of the 67-year-old truck driver. They say he had been drinking, which played a factor in the crash.
It's one thing to lose my husband, but it's another to know that, a person chose to drink, and that decision changed not only his, but all of our lives.
Mika Orkulo Cepena says she doesn't want to see this happen to other families. Now she's trying to bring awareness to road safety and the devastation caused by drinking and driving.
He would have wanted to be able to make a difference. And this is how I'm going to help my husband do that. For his memory to live on, for his legacy to be heard. That was from our little honeymoon in Boracay.
On Saturday, a vigil will be held at the crash site. The day will also mark Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. Mika hopes both events will help people remember her husband's legacy, filled with kindness, warmth, and a love of motorcycles. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg City Council resumed a meeting today. They had postponed in light of Councillor Jason Schreyer's death.
I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend, but I always thought that I'd see you again.
That's Fort Rouge, East Fort Garry Councillor Sherry Rowland singing at City Hall this morning. She and others on council sang, cried, and paid tribute to Schreyer. The councillor for Elmwood, East Kildonan, died suddenly earlier this week. He was known for, among other things, his love of music and karaoke, sometimes breaking out into song on the floor of council. His portrait, a flower, and a City of Winnipeg flag were placed at his spot on the council table. A do-it-yourself test for fentanyl. That is the most recent addition to the Norwest Community Co-op Clinic Health Box, where nurses are working to lower barriers to safe consumption. Madison Eldridge learned more about how the new test works.
So this is Norwest Health Box.
It's a free vending machine that dispenses harm reduction and wellness supplies. To use the box, enter the year you were born, choose a color, and an animal. Users can then pick any item they want without being questioned.
It's that interaction that may prevent them. There may be some shame, some stigma, some embarrassment with it.
The box is stocked with granola bars, HIV test kits, naloxone, and most recently, fentanyl test strips.
And there we have our fentanyl test kit.
The test strip is a tool designed to help substance users combat the toxic drug supply.
We decided to add the fentanyl test strips to our health box as another harm reduction initiative.
The kit includes a pamphlet with instructions, 3 test strips, a cup, and a scoop to measure drugs. All you need is water.
So for the purpose of this demonstration, we'll be using some salt. So we've crushed our pretend drug here and give it a good mix, and now we're going to take a small sample with our little spoon.
It's a small sample size, and that creates a risk. It means that fentanyl could be unevenly distributed, and its detection could be missed. That's only one limitation of the test.
Although it can detect fentanyl, it can't detect some fentanyl analogs, such as carfentanil, and so that's really important because despite using this, if you do get a negative result, an overdose is still possible.
False negatives and false positives also happen. Room temperature and the expiry date of the test can impact the results. Even with these limitations, clinic staff say the test strip is helpful in promoting safe consumption and getting people who are using substances to come to the clinic to access these supplies is also a win.
What I hope is that it will build trust with our clinic with those who are using substances, so that they can come to us when they need us for something they can't get at the health box.
So far, 11 test strips have been given out since they were added to the box. Further items may be incorporated based on the needs of the community. Madison Eldridge, CBC News, Winnipeg.
While wildfire season may still be a few weeks away, the province says it is already implementing some fire and travel restrictions. Starting today, Level 1 restrictions are in place in the Southeast and Interlake regions, including both Whiteshell and Spruce Woods provincial parks. It means no fires between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. unless in an approved campfire pit, and no motorized backcountry travel during those hours, including ATVs, among others. The Wildfire Service says it's because of forecast winds, above average temperatures, and low humidity. Another reason that some rain would be nice in the province, but we are shaping up for a very warm weekend ahead. Here's Ethan Williams.
Well, a little instability, Riley, especially through northern Manitoba as we've gone through Friday here. That the result of this small area of low pressure that might be turning to a little bit of snow along the Hudson Bay coast as that exits into northern Ontario. A little bit of cloud cover moving in through southern Manitoba overnight. But for Saturday and Sunday, especially for southern Manitoba, we're looking at nice bright sunshine as there's not a whole lot of weather activity happening. It's just along the north we're seeing another low pressure system that could bring some snow and maybe even some mixed precipitation as we get into Sunday morning. But once that low departs, again, skies stay mostly clear. We are watching for maybe some scattered showers to start moving through on Monday. That could reach Winnipeg and the Red River Valley by the time we get into Tuesday. For northern Manitoba, though, with the snow that's going to be falling, I think at most maybe 2 to 4 centimeters. And again, it's confined mostly to far northern sections, and along the Hudson Bay coast is generally where we're seeing that. But south of the Taduli Lake area, really not too much in the way of moisture. This rainfall model only going out to about Monday afternoon or so, so it really doesn't catch when that rain starts to move further southeastward. But again, 1 to 3 millimeters, I think, from the beginning of that system moving in through western sections of the province as we start the work week. Wind's going to pick up a little bit here and there as we have a little bit of that instability moving through from time to time. Gusts near 50 to start the day Saturday, but that quickly diminishes into Saturday afternoon for Winnipeg. And then that next system moving through going to pick up breezes, especially as we get into the north of the province as we head into Sunday. But the real story this weekend is not only the nice sunshine that we're going to be seeing, especially through the southern part of the province, but this big ridge in the jet stream, especially on Sunday. Temperatures could be nearing the 30-degree mark in parts of southern Manitoba before that starts to break down with that next low pressure system moving in on Monday. So good time for Lupita to be outside. We want to thank Clara for sending in that photo. Of course, looking at a very nice day in Winnipeg for Saturday, especially as those winds diminish and the clouds clear. And look at that. Yes, I teased it, but on Sunday, 28 degrees, the possible daytime high, with again a little bit of a breeze for Winnipeg. Look at that overnight low, 15 degrees. That's normally what we're seeing for overnight lows in the middle of summer. And things staying still pretty nice for Monday. But there is a bit of a breakdown in temperature coming, Riley, and I'll give you the details on that in a full look at the 7-day forecast coming up a little bit later.
All right, thanks, Ethan. Sure sounds like a patio weekend. We have more to come right after this. Stay with us. Prime Minister Mark Carney held his first news conference since this week's federal election. And while Canada-U.S. relations are at the top of Carney's agenda, they weren't the only priorities that he laid out. The CBC's Cameron McIntosh has more from Ottawa.
Good weekend. A new prime minister many Canadians still don't know very well, giving off a vibe of a guy who wants to get to work.
I'm in politics to do big things, not to be something.
Mark Carney setting expectations.
I am committed to working with others, governing as a team in cabinet and caucus, and working constructively across parties in Parliament.
Promising free interprovincial trade and a middle-class tax cut by July 1st, and to find savings to balance operating costs in 3 years, while also leaning into a couple of key Conservative promises.
Canadians also sent a clear message that their cost of living must come down and their communities need to be safe.
Carney is picking a cabinet. Parliament will begin May 26th, without Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who lost his seat.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Alberta Conservative MP Damien Carrick is now stepping aside so Poilievre can run in a by-election in Battle River Crowfoot, an extremely reliable Conservative seat. In a post, Poilievre thanked Carrick, saying he'll work hard to earn voters' trust. Carney has up to 6 months to call a by-election, but says he won't keep Poilievre waiting.
I will ensure that it happens as soon as possible.
Okay.
No games, nothing, straight.
Also asked if his Liberals will strike another governing deal with the NDP.
Short answer, no.
The former central banker sounding more technocrat than politician.
When you are new as prime minister, new in party politics as he is, you don't come at it with the same sort of hardbound partisanship.
Canadians have honored me with a mandate to bring about big changes quickly. I will work relentlessly to fulfill that trust.
Carney will get his chance. The election left all of the opposition parties battered. At least for now, none of them are in a rush to bring down his minority government. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Ottawa.
One of the first order of business is for the Prime Minister going to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House. That is happening next week. Ashley Burke has the details.
Mark Carney campaigned on a promise to take on Donald Trump and win. Now one of his first tests.
I had a very constructive call with President Trump, and we agreed to meet next Tuesday in Washington.
The newly elected prime minister says that meeting will focus on Trump's trade war and their path forward after Carney declared their old relationship dead.
Are you interested in rebuilding relations with Canada?
I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, let's make a deal.
Carney says Trump didn't mention absorbing Canada on that call, but his administration has been clear it's still the president's goal.
He respects, as others who are good negotiators, and he's one of the best negotiators, they respect strength.
To show strength, during this trip to London before the election, Carney asked the King if he'd be open to delivering Canada's speech from the throne. Now King Charles has accepted the invitation.
It is actually quite a coup to have such a monumental visit so early in his term.
Jason Easton, a former trade advisor to Prime Minister Trudeau, says Trump likes the royals, and Carney's move sends a strong message.
Having the King deliver the throne speech in opening this session of Parliament is the clearest and loudest demonstration yet that Canada's sovereignty is not up for negotiation.
Trump's ambushed leaders before during negotiations, like Ukraine's president.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
Carney says he's going into the meeting prepared and expects difficult but constructive conversations.
I'm not pretending those discussions will be easy or they won't proceed in a straight line. There'll be zigs and zags, ups and downs. But as I said in my remarks, I will fight for the best deal for Canada.
And warns that could take time.
Do not expect white smoke out of that meeting.
This is an introductory set of meetings, but Carney says the amount of time and access to senior White House officials suggests these are serious talks. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
General Motors Canada says it is cutting 1 of 3 shifts at its plant in Oshawa, Ontario, starting this fall. The union representing the auto workers is accusing GM of bartering Canadian jobs to appease Donald Trump.
is just ridiculous, short-sighted, premature, and disrespectful of our Prime Minister and disrespectful of Canadians who, by the way, as I've said, buy a lot of General Motors vehicles in this country.
Union leadership says 700 workers will be laid off at the plant. GM says forecast demand and the changing trade environment are behind the shift reduction. The automaker says the move will support a sustainable manufacturing footprint in Canada as the automaker revamps the plant to build more trucks. It says it plans to build vehicles here for another 100 years. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has said repeatedly she is not pushing for secession, but she has just made it easier for separatists to force a referendum. And as Julia Wong reports, that has caused concern in the Indigenous community.
Days after the federal election, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is coming out swinging at Ottawa over clean energy regulations.
If Ottawa had its way, Albertans would be left to freeze in the dark.
Heated words as signs a different struggle is emerging, a renewed campaign for Alberta to separate from Canada. It comes after new legislation by Smith's government that makes it easier for Albertans to force the province to hold a referendum. While Smith says she's not pushing for secession, she argues a new federal government has done little to mend a fraught relationship.
When we tried voicing our very real and serious concerns about these regulations, they told us too bad.
We have had no consultation in regards to this at all.
This First Nations chief sent a letter to the Premier, one of many saying separatist sentiments breach treaty rights.
This is a very serious issue in regards to separating with Alberta, and it has to stop. It's fear-mongering.
Treaty agreements are sacred and should come before a process like a referendum, says this expert.
Alberta thinks that even if just a political conversation, that it can muse or, just think about the possibility of separating without involving Indigenous peoples as the first step, that's a form of disrespect that's being shown to the chiefs.
The Premier pressed on the issue.
I just feel like I'm not getting an answer, though, on whether, this could be a risk in terms of the province's relationships with Indigenous people.
Well, I'm not going to prejudge what citizens are going to do for a petition. Once there's a petition on the table and there's an active discussion from citizens having achieved the requisite number of signatures, I'd be happy to answer your question.
One of Alberta's 2 Liberal MPs-elect says there are more important issues.
That Canadians expect us to get down to work on defending this country, and I don't want us to spend a lot of time worrying about a separation argument that is ultimately such a fringe argument here in Alberta.
And that report from the CBC's Julia Wong. The woman at the heart of a sexual assault trial involving 5 former World Junior hockey players started her testimony today in a London, Ontario court. It comes 7 years after the alleged incident. The CBC's Katie Nicholson reports.
Before she even testified, a cluster of supporters outside the London courthouse.
Break the silence, end the violence.
They chanted as the accused walked by. Among the crowd, longtime feminist and advocate Judy Rebeck, who wanted to show support for the complainant, known only as EM.
I think she's shown amazing courage.
Former World Junior hockey players Michael McLeod, Cal Foote, Dylan Dubé, Alex Formanton, and Carter Hart are all charged with sexually assaulting a then 20-year-old woman in June of 2018. They have all pleaded not guilty. Court has heard how EM met McLeod at Jack's, where the team was partying. They danced and eventually went to his hotel room where they had sex. Court heard he texted teammates. Who wants to be in a 3-way? Quick, 209, Mikey. The Crown says EM did not consent to the alleged sexual acts which followed. Court also heard evidence from teammate Boris Kachuk, who was briefly in room 209. He said McLeod offered him oral sex, he presumed from EM, but he did not take the offer seriously and left. EM testified she was hesitant to go out that night. She recalls being introduced to a man named Mikey and that he seemed interested and they did a shot together. She said she drank an excessive amount, including 8 shots at the bar, and that her inhibitions were lowered and her vision was blurry. She recalled an older man acting as what she described as a wingman for Mikey, who made it seem like he was a good guy. Later, she would leave the bar and have sex with Michael McLeod. That act is not the focus of the trial. Advocates of sexual assault survivors are paying close attention to how she's treated in court.
I'm going to be watching closely to see how the complainant on the stand is treated and if she is subject to the typical tropes and allegations against her character that we so often see in these types of trials.
EM is expected to continue testifying Monday and will then face cross-examination from the 5 legal teams representing the accused. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
This coming week, Europe marks 80 years since the surrender of Nazi Germany. One of the first ceremonies was a Canadian event remembering the May 5th liberation of the Netherlands. More than 20 veterans made the trip. Some were part of the Netherlands offensive. The 1st Canadian Army was key in the Allied victory there, and for many towns, it was their arrival that heralded that victory. The ceremony was at the Canadian War Cemetery in the town of Groesbeck, the country's largest dedicated to Canadian servicemen. The campaign saw 7,600 Canadians killed. Workers at the Vatican have installed the chimney pipe on the roof of the Sistine Chapel ahead of next week's papal conclave. More than 130 cardinals will gather for the secret meeting to select a new pope beginning May 7th. The chimney will be used to tell the outside world when a new leader has been elected. Black smoke will signify no decision. White smoke will mean they've chosen the next head of the Roman Catholic Church. Pope Francis died on Easter Monday at 88 years old. Coming up after the break, how a local yarn store is involved in the Netflix reboot of Little House on the Prairie. One piece of clothing at a time. We'll have that story just ahead. Stay with us. A beloved TV series is coming back through a Netflix reboot, and a Winnipeg yarn store is helping bring the new series to life, one piece of clothing at a time. CBC's Felicia Adam has the story.
Stitch after stitch after stitch. These crafters are part of a team working hard to bring the world of the Ingalls family back to life in the Netflix reboot of Little House on the Prairie.
So we have to make 5 sets of these in 3 different colors.
The team has 5 weeks to recreate 65 pieces of clothing, including mitts, shawls, garters, and bonnets.
We're basically using all natural fibers, so wools and a cotton crochet thread.
Crystal Sockold is the owner of the yarn store. When she got the order from the show's costume designer, she couldn't believe it.
It wasn't until he came in to pick out the yarns that I was really like, okay, this is happening. This is a big deal.
Crocheter Braden Haino grew up watching the show with his family. He's making collars like this one.
This is the first one that we've made of them. Took me about, I think I worked on it like 3 days, over a period of 3 days, maybe like 12 hours or something total.
The team of 15 are trying to keep the pieces as authentic as possible, but it's not an easy task. They have to recreate stitch work from 2 centuries ago.
I spent about a day on this one and a day on this one.
Michaela Stonehouse is making a total of 12 pieces for the show. Her days are spent decoding these antique knitting patterns.
A lot of it's, following the pattern, knitting, seeing if it looks like the photo. If it doesn't, adjusting and making those things because, the yarn is going to be slightly different, but it's as close as we can get it.
But they're slowly getting the hook of it, loop by loop, bringing audiences closer to the Little House on the Prairie. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A street in Winnipeg's Exchange District has a new name to honor a longtime musician. Jan Kochman has been the principal flutist with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra for more than 50 years. Today, a section of Market Avenue between Main and Lily was named Honorary Jan Kochman Way. Mayor Scott Gillingham and orchestra officials were on hand for the street naming ceremony. Kochman says it's an honor to be celebrating the milestone.
I've really loved playing with the Winnipeg Symphony. It's been a fantastic job for me. The emotional content that we achieve as an orchestra on stage, I think, is remarkable. And that's what sells it to me, and that's what sells it to so many people.
Kochman is the longest-serving principal musician in the WSO's history. He says he looks forward to the orchestra continuing to grow. All right, time for a full check on our Manitoba weather forecast, and let's head back to weather specialist Ethan Williams for that.
Well, Riley, of course, we're now just starting the month of May, but I think it's worth a look back at the month of April just to see how we did. The month of April, though, temperature-wise, pretty uneventful through Manitoba. We had some days where we were above and below average, and when all was said and done, those temperatures averaged out, well, pretty much near average, especially if you were in Sprague in the southeast part, or Sprague, pardon me, if you were in the southeast part of Manitoba, looking at temperatures pretty much bang on average through the entire month. For Winnipeg and for the rest of southern Manitoba, slightly above that seasonal average. As you go into kind of central and northern parts of the province, that's where we're seeing those temperatures a little bit below seasonal, including around Churchill, but by and large, nothing too eventful or exciting on the temperature front. Moisture is always a different story, though, because it really depended on where we saw those storm systems, and specifically into southeastern Manitoba, well above average for moisture. But you look at a place like Winnipeg or Brandon, only about half the average moisture that we get in the month of April. And then you look at a place like Swan River, just a few millimeters of accumulation, making that one of the driest Aprils on record for Swan River. And then into northern Manitoba, again, bit of a mixed bag here. Most locations kind of picking up in that half to 3/4 of what we normally see, but a couple areas slightly drier than normal. But as we go overnight, as we head Friday into Saturday, most of us not really going to be seeing any moisture of any type, especially through southern portions of the province. Again, we're looking at clouds continuing to clear away. A warm night with lows generally between 5 and 10 degrees. with a bit of a breeze in there as that low pressure system continues to move through the north of the province. And it's in the north where, again, we're seeing that kind of mix of rain and mostly snow, I think, as we head overnight. Things going to start to clear out if you're in the northern portions of the Inner Lake by the afternoon. But again, that snow starting to move through the very far north as we get into Saturday afternoon. But nice temperatures for places like Flin Flon and Norway House and even Island Lake for this time of year. Pretty seasonal or even a little bit above that. For southern Manitoba, again, we're enjoying a more summer-like Saturday as we begin to see clouds move out early in the morning. And by the afternoon, those temperatures already jumping into the 20s, even for portions of northwestern Ontario, seeing some very nice conditions. And I'll have a full look at how long this warm weather is going to stick around in your full 7-day forecast coming up.
All right. Thank you, Ethan. A Vancouver-based fashion designer is on a mission to print 1,000 red shirts to raise awareness for Tanya Nepinak. Nepinak went missing in 2011, and it's believed she was killed and her remains taken to the Brady Road landfill. A search was done in 2012, but was cancelled after 6 days. To date, Nepinak has not been found. Now, her story resonated with the BC woman who goes by the name Pretty East Van. We aren't using her real name because she is a victim of violence. CBC attended her shirt printing workshop here in Winnipeg. Those shirts will be given out at a rally on Monday, the National Day for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls.
You're going to have to strongly but gently separate the paper. My name's Marie, but I go by Pretty East Van. I am a MMIW survivor. I was trafficked when I was 12 and a half. I was fortunate to get out of that lifestyle and survive. The image is red-black image of Tanya Nepinak's face with MMIW over her mouth and a faded handprint. Below Tanya Nepinak's face is a picture of her son and her daughter. Fashion has kind of followed me through my life. Incarcerated, I was taught how to sew in jail. It's just a lot of different fashion has come into my life in very bad places. I got hired to a policing center as their youth coordinator and screen printer. They trained me how to screen print, and I realized that with Orange Shirt Day, I actually had a couple of designs go viral that were orange shirt based. And the awareness that was brought and the people that came and were like, oh my God, we love this design, you know? So it clicked very fast that fashion and advocacy go really well together. Placed it on a shirt, same idea, cheesecloth. I was doing some advocacy in Vancouver and I kept noticing that Tanya's name was popping up. I started to do a little more research into it. And I found out that she was in the landfill. They knew she was in the landfill, and they searched for 6 days, and that was it. So that really bothered me, is that you could actually know somebody's there, but you give up on looking for that person. It seemed very inhumane. How could I make fashion bring Tanya's name into the spotlight again? What can I do? I decided we will do 1,000 red shirts.
My name is Robin Johnston. I am a MMIWG2S Plus advocate. It's important that I'm here because I discovered through this journey that Tanya was ignored for many years and her name was not being said. And I felt it was important that we remind everyone of who is in the Brady landfill. And that's Tanya Nepinak, and we need to find her.
I can't just sit there and just let this keep going, you know, when there's something that I can do about it. There's something everybody could do about it. But in my heart, I know that I would be wrong if I didn't come here to do this. I just know it would be wrong, and I would have to live with that.
My name's Barb Young. It's a crisis in Winnipeg, and I'm from Vancouver originally, so there's a lot of mistreatment to women and to Indigenous women, and people go missing, and some people don't seem to care, and we need to get people to wake up and get out there and help.
We need to forget, like, a lot of things that we were taught that are not ours. You know, like lateral violence, all of these things. We need to forget that, and we need to come together for the bigger picture, which is to support our people. I know that feeling of knowing you're gonna die and nobody's there. And, sorry, if I was in the landfill, I would want someone to come get me. Her kids, she has kids. You know, I would want someone to come get me and take me to my kids. You know, take me home. It only seems right. When I talk about the long-term effects of intergenerational trauma, you see her children. I put her children in the image because people need to see that these little kids are going to grow into adults and they're going to suffer because we couldn't bring their mom home.
All right, let's shift gears and take you inside Canada Life Centre as we head to break. The Jets aren't here tonight, but the fans have shown up. Game 6 between the Jets and Blues getting underway in about a half hour from now. We'll have more coming up right after the break. All right, let's get you back to Canada Life Centre. A watch party for tonight's Game 6. Gavin Axelrod is there. Gavin, what are you watching for tonight?
Well, Riley, I think what every Jets fan is going to be watching for tonight is it looks like Nikolai Ehlers is going to make his series debut for the Jets tonight, and that's a big boost for the team because Mark Scheifele will not play tonight. He took those 2 punishing hits against St. Louis in Game 5 and played less than 10 minutes. Now, another thing to look for tonight is that for the Jets to punch their ticket to the second round, they're going to have to break through and do something that no team has done this series, and that's win on the road. The St. Louis Blues have won 14 straight games on home ice dating back to the regular season, but the Jets were the last team to beat them there.
Well, just take a look at these next 3 days here in Winnipeg. This is feeling a little more like July than the start of May as we hit the mid to even upper 20s. Overnight lows cracking those double digits. Again, normally we see that when we get to midsummer or so. Things do come down a little bit as we get into Tuesday, though, with a chance of showers as the cloud cover builds back in. That, however, is not lasting long at all because as we get into Wednesday, that's when we'll start to see the beginning of that temperature increase again as we jump into the upper teens and the clouds start to clear away. It is Thursday where we're once again above seasonal, and it looks like things will stay that way, Riley, as we head through the rest of next week. So a nice 7 days ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, Ethan. It was such a nice Friday even that I wore shorts to work today, so now you know. Well, of course, all eyes for hockey fans have been on the Winnipeg Jets, but another blockbuster series came to a very exciting end here in Manitoba last night. The winners of the MJHL's Turnbull Cup are tonight's Daily Lift. Okay, this was the moment the Northern Manitoba Blizzard captured the league's top prize last night in Dauphin. The series between the Blizzard and the Dauphin Kings was worth every nickel for the fans. Not only did that series go a full 7 games, but it went to triple overtime, 6 periods of playoff hockey, ending with a 2-1 win for the Blizzard. This is the team's first championship win since 2003. They now go on to compete for the Centennial Cup. And that's our program for this Friday. We leave you with a look inside Canada Life Centre. All eyes on the big screen tonight. If you're watching us on CBC television, Hockey Night in Canada is coming up next. Game 6 for the Jets and Blues. Puck drop happening very soon. Thanks for watching.